I'm Brett, this is Muon Video on YouTube, and today we're going to look at the Canon EOS R5 and the Panasonic Lumix S5. We'll be doing an autofocus comparison test between these two cameras, so with all that out of the way, let's get started. Now I've got the Canon EOS R5 attached to a 24mm lens, and I've got the Panasonic Lumix S5 attached to a 50mm f1.4 lens. It's a pretty fast prime. So I've got both these cameras set up with autofocus. The Canon EOS R5 has the eye tracking enabled, and the Panasonic Lumix S5 has the most up-to-date firmware along with AFC enabled. Both cameras are filming in 4K 24p, so let's see which camera does best. So I was vlogging in a blizzard yesterday, or was it 2 days ago? I was vlogging in a blizzard 2 days ago, and I used the Canon EOS R5. It kept me in focus. There's maybe one or two situations where it wasn't keeping me in focus, but it was very rare. I was impressed with it. You've got to take into consideration that I was filming with the Canon EOS R5 with snow hitting me, all kinds of chaotic conditions. It was all coming down, and the camera did not let up. The autofocus kept me in focus. So I was really impressed with that. The eye tracking is really excellent on the EOS R5. With the Panasonic S5, the autofocus system has eluded Panasonic for a long time, or I should say excellent autofocus has eluded Panasonic for a very long time. And the S5 is the best autofocus system yet for Panasonic, but that's not saying much when your control group is unreliable, not really excellent autofocus. The S5 has the best autofocus system though, and I will say with the 50mm f1.4 prime, it's pretty fast. The Canon EOS R5 is pretty snappy. Suffice to say, autofocus is getting better for most cameras. In the Lumix S5, is it getting it? So the great thing about Canon is I feel a lot more comfortable because they have my eye in like a white box. And Panasonic has my head in a yellow box. And I know not to trust the yellow boxes all the time. Because with Panasonic, oftentimes the background pulsing is what gets you. If you pay attention to the wall behind me with the statues, you can see maybe some background pulsing. I can't really tell from this distance because the camera is a little bit further away from me than the Canon EOS R5. And I did an autofocus test on the street as well, so let's take a look. Okay, that is much better. So at first I was shooting with the digital stabilization in enhanced mode, but that had such a massive crop I had to change it. So this is a little bit better. Autofocus eye tracking is working like a charm. I've got the city behind me, which you can see here. Oh yes. I gotta tell you, a lot of people were giving the digital stabilization on this camera a lot of beef, saying it wasn't that good. It's actually pretty good. I don't have it on enhanced mode because the crop is a little bit much, but the stabilization so far is pretty nice. The lens is 24mm, and it's a really good quality lens, but the weight is like just, I mean, I haven't been to the gym in a little bit, but this is definitely tough to carry for a long period of time. Now let's switch on over to the Panasonic Lumix S5, and same audio system, and let's see how that works in this environment. So now we're on the Panasonic Lumix S5 using the 20 to 60mm f3.5 to 5.6 lens, filming in 4K 24p with auto white balance on, digital stabilization is on, and the autofocus mode we're using is AFC. With the new firmware update, meaning this should be at least somewhat enhanced as well. How am I coming out here? Now I've got human tracking on, animal tracking is off, my head is in the pretty yellow box, but I know working with Panasonic cameras that just because it's in the yellow box does not mean that there isn't any background pulsing going on. So I've got speed and sensitivity set to their maximum levels, and it's a beautiful day out here. Blizzard aside, it's a beautiful day. Now, I've gotten a lot of comments on YouTube about the S5, and after posting many videos on the S5 camera, people have been saying things like the S5 is not a good vlogging camera, or they think that it doesn't have the capabilities of being a good vlogging camera. I like to think that's not the case. With the stabilization in camera, while it's not as good as the S1 and S1H, it's still pretty good. With this lens, it's a lightweight combination, a much lighter weight than other camera and lens combinations. So it is a lighter experience, and you can film more continuously without getting fatigued or tired from filming. While the autofocus is not as good as some of its competitors, the autofocus still is pretty decent if you know which settings to use and you don't overcomplicate the shot too much. So which camera did it better? Was it the Canon EOS R5 or the Panasonic Lumix S5? What do you think? Who did it best? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you found this video helpful or insightful, please give a big thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next video.